You had to be 15 minutes late.
Take some personal responsibility of your own actions, Marty.
No, I mean, I'm not going to dox the internal TFTC chat, but you were delayed 15 minutes, and we could have caught block 750,000, but a couple of blocks have been produced since then.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the neighbor power washing in the background and trying to blame it on me being 15 minutes late.
No, that's he was going to do that whether or not you were on time. But you can't. Actually, only one block's been produced since block 750,000.
Yeah, so we could just pretend that's not the case. Maybe I'll get reorged.
Oh, that would be interesting.
If you're a miner and you're listening, can you reorg just so that Marty gets the right block number?
Yeah, reorg back to block 750,000 so we can go to Clark's dashboard. It's funny you mentioned that. A lot of reorg talk today. Ari, I'm sure. Did he block you or you blocked? You don't block.
So he blocked me like 3 years ago. What did he say today?
Yeah. He's back on his mining bullshit. Like,
nice.
We'll get into it. But
I'm like torn. I'm pretty torn about it because honestly, first of all, it's like the most perfect timeline possible that all of this is happening when like the ETH community has basically forced themselves into this position where they have to move forward with the merge. And like a lot of this shit, like conclusions should have been drawn years ago. A lot of this stuff is really obvious. And now there's just like all this panic and arguments and everything happening in the lead up to it. And it's really beautiful. And I feel like worst case scenario would be them calling off the proof of stake merge somehow. So part of me just is like in Zen, let them do what they want to do, and let's have a learning experience afterwards. And in the meantime, if you're not holding any ETH, you should be completely fine. So that's kind of my current feeling on that front. So if Ari wants to tweet out bullshit, let him.
Yeah, we're gonna let him. I muted him. I didn't block him. So I just.
How are you not blocked yet?
Because I stopped interacting with him years ago because it was just.
I mean, this was 3 years ago or something like that. It was a mining death spiral argument that got me blocked.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, never happened.
Never happened. Never will happen because the difficulty adjustment exists, and people really need to get that through their heads. Every 2016 blocks the difficulty adjust, thus making Bitcoin profitable again for miners who have a certain electricity all-in production costs. So, yeah, I've been getting a lot of joy, and I don't want to say joy. It is funny. It's like you're seeing your ugly step cousin get beat up in public for the first time. It's like, ooh, it's hard to watch, but it's also like, hey, I fucking told you not to touch the stove. I mean, you and I have been covering this for years, not only on Twitter, on the show, but just behind the scenes. I've been saying you should design your protocol and your distributed system with the intention of getting attacked by the state at some point in the future. And Ethereum decided that wasn't a very important sort of goal to have, and they're finding out extremely hard. They're learning an extremely hard lesson on the go. And like you said, the timing of it couldn't be more incredible. Like literally less than a month, 27 days until they're supposed to merge to proof of stake, after which point many large regulated validators will be put in a precarious situation. Do they go along?
If OFAC waited 6 weeks to do the sanction on Tornado Cash, none of this discussion would even be happening. They would just be going on their merry way right into disaster.
Yeah. I mean, it's damned if they do, damned if they don't. They stay on proof of work. I mean, we'll get into it. Let's get the Clark's dashboard first. We'll come right back to this because there's a lot to talk about here.
It's exciting. I love this shit.
It's very exciting. It's very high signal data on the go. A lot of good case studies being built out right now. The price of Bitcoin has been in a bit of a lull, hovering around 22 to 24,000 last week. Currently sitting at 23,295 cuck bucks. One cuck buck's going to get you 4,293 sats. Current market capitalization of Bitcoin is 444.4 billion cuck bucks. We are block height 750,001. Again, Matt had to be late, so we missed block 700.
And the miners didn't reorg yet. What the fuck?
I did not listen. Not enough of them are listening to the show right now. We
have one. We have, I don't know how to pick a name. He said he started overclocking his S19 just for us.
Well, thank you. I don't know how to pick a name. Really appreciate you putting in the effort. Maybe you just burned out your machine for us a little bit. So thank you for your sacrifice. There are currently 1,967 blocks until the next retarget, which means we had a retarget between the last two shows. So that happened 33 plus 16 is 49 blocks ago. We had an upwards difficulty adjustment of 0.6%. So relatively flat. Blocks are coming at 9 minutes 53 seconds. We're not going to read the estimated difficulty change for the next epoch because it's too close to the last adjustment, but we'll read it anyway. Estimated to be 14.2% upward adjustment. There are currently 5,270 transactions in Clark's mempool. 1 sat per byte fees are going through. Samurai sitting at 5,625.1 Bitcoin in unspent capacity, or $131 million on the dot. So that's where we are. Pretty boring in the world of Bitcoin. Flat, relatively flat difficulty adjustment. Price hasn't moved much in a couple of weeks, but as we mentioned before we jump to the dashboard, there's a lot of incredible lessons being learned on the go, particularly with Ethereum. So met last week. OFAC, or not OFAC, the Treasury Department sanctioned Tornado Cash. At that point, Infura, Alchemy, USDC, Circle, Coinbase started stopping to interact. They stopped interacting with the Tornado Cash. BitGo stopped interacting with the Tornado Cash contract. The morning after we recorded last week, one of the Tornado Cash developers was arrested in the Netherlands. And over the course of this week, there's been a lot of discussion between those in the Ethereum community, what is going to happen once we go to proof of stake in the next 27 days from now. And you have these large regulated validators, which Matt has basically explained many times throughout the years: Coinbase, Binance, Lido Finance, all these exchanges and centralized third parties. They're going to be the largest validators and stakers on the proof of stake consensus chain, and they are regulated entities that will have to comply with OFAC. And so there's been a lot of back and forth throughout the week in the Ethereum community. Erica Wall is claiming that there's going to be a user activated soft fork, and he's rallied people like Vitalik and others to essentially promise that they will slash validators that censor transactions that OFAC doesn't want going through. Brian Armstrong, I believe, came out earlier today and said he would unwind Coinbase's staking.
No, he said that yesterday, but he also he put like an open-ended, or we might just do some other bullshit kind of thing attached to it.
Yeah, well, that's that's the beauty of it too. I think one important thing to mention here is, so the way this transition's going, people are putting staking ETH in what they call the beacon chain, and they're basically pre-allocating Ether that will automatically be staked and validating the chain once they transition. And they haven't even written the code to unstake and move your coins out of that staking mechanism. Even if Coinbase wanted to unwind, they wouldn't be able to. It's functionally not possible.
Yeah.
6 to 12
Apparently.
months. They're saying.
So I mean, we can go all the way back. There's a thread I started 5 years ago, and that thread started with a simple premise and poll, which was, in a world of Ethereum moving to proof of stake, the largest stakers will be exchanges, agree or disagree. And 2,500 people voted and 61% agreed. So it's not like we can see the future or something. There was a lot of people that could tell that this was the end result 5 years ago. But meanwhile, they put their own gun to their head in this setup for this merge. And then a lot of the influencers seem to have not considered this as a possibility until like 8 days ago. Like, what the fuck? Like, it just makes you like, part of me, I remember like, part of me, I was just like, maybe we don't even talk about it. Let them just move to proof of stake. It'll be a great learning experience. But we talked about it nonstop and they still didn't fucking pay attention. So, now it's time you made your bed. Now it's time to sleep in it.
Yeah, it turns out that maybe being able to run your own full node and validate transactions in the comfort of your own house may not just be a mountain man fantasy, but something that is integral to sufficient distribution in these distributed protocols. So, I mean, yeah, it's hilarious. I mean, the Ethereum cognoscenti, the influencer world there, whatever you want to call them, they've been bashing Bitcoin maxis for calling everything a shitcoin and calling it a scam for years on end. And I think who knows what will happen come next month when they try to move to proof of stake, or what will happen in the coming months, coming years. But it seems
amazing.
There's a bit of hey, we told you so going on right now. Like that is basically the crux in the core of what I hate the term Bitcoin maxi, but why Bitcoin quote unquote maxis are the way they are. It's because like this stuff is only going to succeed if it's sufficiently distributed, in the way you're architecting your protocol is dooming it to fail because it will not be sufficiently distributed and will be able to be attacked by the state. And basically the first fucking sneeze the state threw at Ethereum, it's completely
just updated a blog post. They like updated a blog post and went to bed, and then all of this chaos ensued. Everything that's followed has just been like Control C, Control V onto their sanctions list, and then everything else just played out.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, first of all, to just add on to what Marty said, I mean, look, you need proper foundations for these things. If we're trying to build systems that are going to last generations, that are going to outlive all of us, they need a strong foundation. And you can't build distributed censorship resistant networks or tools on top of something that is not distributed or censorship resistant. But the opposite is true. If you have a strong foundation, you can build whatever the fuck you want to build on top because it has a strong foundation. These are basic fundamentals of these systems. And we're watching that play out in real time. Just years and years of poor planning and poor priorities have resulted in this current situation. And I don't, even in like, first of all, they've alienated anyone who wants to mine on Ethereum for years. So that whole industry, like the Ethereum mining industry, is an absolute joke in comparison to Bitcoin. So even if like somehow they changed all their code and they were like, we're going to move back to proof of work, they're behind by years, absolute years. And they're behind in a situation where it's really important to get past that first ASIC hurdle, where like ASIC manufacturing is very centralized. Control of ASICs is centralized. Mining is centralized. Like, it takes some time to get through there. And fortunately, Bitcoin was able to do that in a time where we were basically like in a honeymoon phase with these systems, where like they weren't really getting outwardly attacked too much. So they've missed that opportunity completely. They probably can't back out of the proof of stake thing. They are proving in real time one of the key differences between proof of stake and proof of work is that there's no objective truth. So they have all these slashing mechanisms and stuff where they're like, oh, well, like if a majority is censoring, the majority are regulated exchanges in Lido, which is a regulated corp. we'll just slash them. Well, the reverse is true too. If a small group of influential people can choose what's true and what's not true on your chain, then that's censorship in itself. So they're just in this massive catch-22, and as it plays out, people will learn. This has always been the optimistic thesis, right? It's like, as people get burned, they will learn. These systems will get more robust. People will improve their own individual understanding and interaction with these protocols, and we will move towards a better situation.
Yeah, the whole uh, movement this week to threaten to slash all the largest validators is really interesting to see, because those validators are holding ether for hundreds of thousands, who knows how many people, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. So they're actively talking about disenfranchising like Joe Schmo and completely wiping out the value that he's put into that token, because they don't like that these validators have to play by the rules, and they're just playing within the system that Ethereum has erected, which is inherently centralized. And we brought up Ari Paul earlier, and again, comparing proof of stake to proof of work, it's incited this debate on Twitter today, particularly this morning, where people are like, well, Bitcoin isn't really immune to this either. Like miners are, so like what Ari's trying to claim is that miners are actively censoring OFAC addresses, which is just blatantly false. I think Laurent from the Samurai team or surfaced at least 2 transactions where Bitcoin left an OFAC blacklisted address and was successfully included in blocks. So that's happened at least twice in Bitcoin's history. And then the nature of mining, that's where it gets very interesting, because right now, obviously, we use large mining pools distributed throughout the world. They could certainly go to the mining pools. They can go to Foundry, they can go to Mara, they can go, well, Mara's not even, they can go to Luxor here in the United States. So go to Foundry and Luxor, and they'll say, hey, you guys have to respect this OFAC list. And they could certainly force them to do that. But what you would see is if individual miners in those pools really wanted Bitcoin to continue to succeed, they would simply leave, and you can shift your hash rate towards another pool at a moment's notice. And then on top of that, how do these regulators right now even identify the pools? And we've brought this up recently in the past too, which is the pools right now are identifying themselves in the Coinbase transaction messaging, where when you mine a block, you can put a message in the Coinbase.
The Coinbase transaction is the transaction that pays the miners, by the way. It's not, has nothing to do with the exchange.
No. So yeah, when you mine a block, the way the subsidy is and the reward is, the subsidy and the transaction fees, which make up the reward, are released to the miner. It's released from the Coinbase transaction. And so you mine a block, and that Coinbase transaction is released 100 blocks later. So if you mine a block, you don't get the Bitcoin right away. You have to wait 100 blocks. But anyway, you can also put a message in this Coinbase. And most pools right now are just saying, hey, it's Slush Pool that mine this block. It's F2 Pool that mine this block. It's Foundry that mine this block. They don't have to do that. And so right now that is common practice. But you could imagine in the future, if the regulatory heat got extremely hot, that these pools would simply be like, all right, we're not going to identify ourselves in the Coinbase transaction anymore. And that adds another layer of trying to find them, which makes Bitcoin more robust.
There's 2 additional elements there just that are addendums to what you said. The first is you mentioned that you're able to leave a mining pool if the operator is doing something that you don't approve of, such as censoring a transaction. You can do that instantly. My basic understanding of how Ethereum is set up proof of stake is it takes a while to de-delegate from a staker. So like this, the people that are using these big stake pools or whatever the fuck you want to call them, they can't leave very easily. They can't switch very easily. And then the second thing is, even without people switching from those mining pools, Bitcoin is set up in such a way that other miners that are outside of those pools can include those transactions in a block. And by doing so, they're more likely to get higher fees, because if those transactions aren't getting included by the largest mining pools, then that transactor is more inclined to pay a higher fee, and then those smaller miners will pick it up. So in order to do a proper protocol level kind of censorship attack on Bitcoin, which is still theoretically possible, 100%, 100% theoretically, is you would need an overwhelming large amount of miners to be on board with it. And then you would need them to actively basically reorg any blocks from miners that they disagree with, which would hurt their bottom line significantly. So there's this strong profit incentive set up so that it's really expensive and really difficult to do protocol level censorship on Bitcoin.
Yeah, the probabilistic nature with how a hash that allows you to add a block to the ledger is found makes it extremely uncertain if you're going to levy this attack that you'll be successful, number one, and then number two, how much will it cost to continue the attack. And again, this is why it's important that we engender a culture of at-home mining, smaller scale mining as well, because obviously we have the big massive miners like Riot, Marathon, Core Scientific, Rhodium, a bunch of others that if, let's say, the government were to co-opt them to coordinate with each other, could put the network at risk. But luckily we have a culture of individuals running a lot of miners throughout the world as well, which helps against that type of attack. But yeah, no, I mean, let's just be upfront here. You should, as Bitcoiners, you should 100% expect the U.S. Treasury or some other entity within the U.S. federal government to begin trying to co-opt either mining pools, large publicly traded miners, or other types of entities at that scale to basically censor transactions on the network.
Yeah, so to wrap this all up in as concise a way as possible, we have two elements at play here. We have network level censorship, which is why it's extremely important for you to be able to use your own node and run it cheaply, accessibly through Tor in a private way. And then we have protocol level censorship, which is why it's important to use proof of work, why it's important to make it as easy as possible and as predictable as possible for people to invest money into mining, into mining development, into mining distribution, for all these different mining operations to spread out across the world in a reliable, predictable way, rather than working in an environment where the stakeholders are just constantly alienating you and you don't want to invest in that kind of infrastructure. So those two combinations together are basically at the crux of this whole issue: network level censorship and protocol level censorship. And Marty's neighbor is mowing right now, which he's going to try and blame on me.
I'm not like it's fucking. I'm gonna have to scream at him.
Just ask him if he can wait like 40 minutes.
I'll tell him. I'll ask him. I'll tell him I'll mow the lawn, and like I'll mow the lawn after this.
Yeah, so freaks, if you're listening to the audio feed, Marty just got up and walked away from the camera, so it's just us. Today, right before we went live, me and a few other people, we've been working for a lot of months now, and we got this new campaign up that we're very excited about for hodlonaut. If you're not aware, hodlonaut has been fighting 2 court cases for years now against someone who claims to be Satoshi. And these are defamation lawsuits because hodlonaut made claims against that. So he's caught up in, he's a very humble dude. He doesn't like to talk about it. We basically had to like push it out of him when I saw him last time because he didn't want to ask for help. But him and his family are seeing massive legal bills before the court case even happens. So we're calling on Bitcoin companies and Bitcoiners around the world to support. We've set it up through OpenSats. So if you are American, you can get a tax deduction on it. If you don't want a tax deduction, if you just uncheck the tax deduction bubble, you can donate completely anonymously using Bitcoin without providing your email or your name. Obviously, we need the email there if you want a tax deduction receipt. And I'm proud to say it's being run. OpenSats is the one handling the donations. This is for a general legal defense fund for people that are suffering legal cases based on free speech. Hodlonaut will be one of the recipients, but other people afterwards will be able to apply for grants from this as well. And Marty and Carr, among others, will be joining me for a 12-hour telethon during BitBlock Boom in Austin. So I do want to thank Gary for being very, very supportive of this initiative and working with us on this. So if you go to defendingbtc.com, you can donate to support this cause. And I hope you all join us for the telethon, which will be broadcast next Friday live from Austin.
Awesome. Well, I just added some lawn mowing to my day.
How'd it go with your neighbor?
It went great. I just have to mow the lawn when we're done.
Awesome.
It's
Proof
you know
of
what
work.
happens? He comes down Thursday afternoons and then just decides to mow the lawn. We got terrible timing here, but
Maybe he's a freak and he listens and he knew if he kept doing it, you'd mow his lawn.
maybe I just need to be a better neighbor and just go in his garage and mow the lawn before he gets down here.
Maybe he's an ETH guy and he heard us shitting on ETH while he was watching RHR and he's like, fuck this guy, and walked outside with his lawnmower and just started.
Yeah, it's like a proverbial slashing down there.
Slashing grass.
Slashing grass. So that should be fun. No, very excited. Or I don't think excited's the right word. I don't feel good.
It's the wrong word.
Raise money for hodlonaut, but should be a good time next Friday in Austin. Going to be a great week in Austin, all week. A lot going on. BitBlock Boom. Another live episode. Do we do business on air? Are we doing like an RHR on Thursday and then one on Saturday? Are we doing extra content? Or are we too busy?
We could do that. Maybe a short one on Thursday. I'll be in town.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll do a short one on Thursday and we'll pump the hodlonaut telethon. That's going to be the day after as well. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
Good.
So plan on that, freaks. We'll have 2 RHRs next week.
I don't know if we're releasing a specific target for hodlonaut, but just between me and the freaks, like the bills are in the millions. It's quite high. Lot of things are on the line here for hodlonaut and his family. So any spare sats you can spare to the cause are greatly appreciated by him and his family.
It's insane. It's insane. We'll leave it at
that. I mean, regardless of how you feel about everything in this case, like you shouldn't be getting, you shouldn't have your family's life on the line, over a tweet.
Yeah. We don't live in a free world, freaks.
And I will particularly reach out to the people that gave cover to this character for a while, and I know have a decent amount of wealth that they've accrued in this space that should consider repenting for their sins and contributing to this initiative.
I mean, Ari Paul was one of them. He once looked.
Yeah, so someone reach out to him for me because I'm blocked.
Ari Paul once looked me in the eyes after we recorded Jesus back in like 2018. Told me to dump all my Bitcoin for Bcash because Craig Wright was Satoshi.
Have fun staying poor.
I think the statute of limitations of sharing that story has passed. It's been 4 years. Shout out to Bitcoin Anarchist, 4:42 a.m. in Australia, tuning in. Good morning, sir. Top of the morning to you. That's British. I'm sorry about that. By the way, back to the list. I mean, we mentioned it. The Tornado Cash developer was arrested in Amsterdam last Friday. Was it for writing the code? Was it for profiting from the contract? I think that's still up in the air, exactly what he was arrested for. And then Coin Center wrote a piece on Tornado Cash and just privacy on the internet and in general. But again, like I think, I don't know, I like the coin center piece. It's interesting. It's like very rah rah rally cry, but at the end of the day, the system wasn't really designed. Um, it's sort of like a hey, just let us do this. Where the answer should be design systems that don't allow them to stop it. So
I mean, I think it's important that people are fighting for privacy rights and uh, privacy rights through legal methods. But we shouldn't like count on that. But it should definitely be like one aspect of this fight. I mean, it goes all the way back to, you know, the early 90s when we had the wars on encryption that never ended. You know, people say like, oh, you know, that war was done. That war's just been simmering and continuing this whole time. But there was massive legal wins there, but there was also technological wins. It was a combination of the two.
yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
glad Coin Center is now more focused on this than you would believe that they're more focused on this than dumping shitcoins on retail.
yeah, yeah. Like we mentioned it last week. That is the silver lining of all this. Is that one, people are quickly learning what is important when it comes to these distributed systems and why Bitcoin has gone about developing and building out its protocol the way it has, and shifting focus and attention towards the things that are important, like decentralization and privacy. Um, Moving on the list, the U.S. banned the export of 3 nanometer chip tech to China. I mean, China wasn't mentioned specifically, but this seems like
Who else would it be for?
yeah, exactly. So this was announced last Friday. The U.S. Commerce Department, Bureau of Industry and Security. The rule will ban the export of 2 ultra-wide bandgap semiconductor materials, as well as some types of electronic computer-aided designs, ECAD technology, and pressure gain combustion technology. I mean, this is
The how first of all, how good car scroll up for a second. How good is the subtitle? Not mention China. Obvious target China.
even if country uh, hasn't designed advanced chips. No, I mean, this has been one of the biggest knocks on sort of America shifting all its manufacturing, particularly a lot of its computer technology, to China. Is I mean, the word on the street is, and that they've just been taking what we've been sending over there to designs and just completely ripping them off, not respecting IP laws, or most importantly, like military secrets, and just taking our tech and reworking it for themselves. So
It
yeah,
kind of feels like there's similarities here to Ethereum influencers freaking out, you know, like 30 days before the merge, and us, you know, like the U.S. government trying to, you know, put a lid on this issue at this point. Like it's almost too late at this point.
yeah,
Um, it's probably too late at this point to really do anything meaningful, but at least it seems they're aware of the threat to a degree. Um, Hopefully this, you know, means that there'll be even greater priority on bringing a lot of this manufacturing within our own borders. That's really the productive way of handling this. And I just, before I forget, because I will forget, and I forget the amount of things, freaks, that I've forgotten to say on the countless rabbit hole recaps is just,
could write a
it's
book.
you could write a book, or at least a ghostwriter could write a book, because I will not be writing a book. Hodlonaut, we made it so that all you pretend Bitcoiners out there that refuse to spend Bitcoin, you can donate with credit cards as well.
Don't
And
call
I
them
just,
Bitcoiners.
well, I mean, look, Bitcoin's perfect for this situation, and the amount of time and energy that went into making sure that credit card donations were enabled was a very frustrating thing, because really, like, Bitcoin makes all this kind of shit really fucking easy, and credit cards just add a massive complexity to the whole operation. But for you guys, it's there. Consider donating, whether it's fiat or Bitcoin. And I was just half kidding when I called you a pretend Bitcoiner. I take that back if you donate.
Spend and replace. or just use something like Strike, pay with cash, or it's the other way around there. Yeah, we're getting. Yeah, it seems like the attacks from the U.S. on, or economic attacks on from the U.S. on China. It's very confusing the last few weeks. Like they're like, hey, we recognize one China. We're gonna go to Taiwan. We had another uh, delegation go to Taiwan in secret earlier this week. I believe a few.
I like the theory that the whole strategy is just basically Pelosi insider trading. It's
Yeah, I
like
mean,
the
her
cleanest.
son's
It's the cleanest theory with all this shit.
didn't her son invest in like a bunch of the semiconductors or something like that?
Yeah, and like maybe he's involved with 3-nanometer chip production. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems easy enough.
Yeah, but Diogenes the Great is saying that a bunch of U.S. company, or excuse me, Chinese companies are going to get delisted from the U.S. stock exchanges next month. The
Shit's
SEC
heating up.
has added over 80 firms to the list, is likely to list them on American exchanges. I mean, it's very interesting because obviously we've talked about this in the past too. Obviously, the CCP is an evil communist dictatorship that is enslaving people, thrusting social credit,
Harvesting organs.
harvesting organs, doing some of the
I
most
think that's a big
despicable
one.
things. Yeah, it's pretty big. Harvesting halal organs to then sell to Saudi Arabia.
Higher value.
Yes, from the Uyghurs who are Muslims that they're putting in internment camps.
It's one of the reasons I drink so much. It reduces the value of my organs.
It's
Not funny, but
it is pretty funny,
all
but
right.
what is the trade off balance there? Are you a high organ target to begin with? I don't know. Regardless, though,
Everyone debates whether or not you put organ donor on your card, but like the state tells me I'm not allowed to donate mine.
they have told you that, or they will tell
No,
you.
I'm just shooting the shit. I don't know. It's a dark topic, and I was trying to lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah, no, it
And I
is.
haven't. I'm intermittent fasting today while drinking beer.
Ooh, that's never a good combo. You're gonna be drunk fast.
Yeah.
But no, there's this weird, especially being like more being in the mining industry. Obviously, Bitcoin mining, heavily influenced by Chinese entrepreneurs. Yeah, there's this weird like weird paradox where China is run by a communist party, yet there's crazy hyper capitalistic individuals and companies, particularly the Bitcoin mining space. So I've interacted with a lot of these people, and I really like them. I think they're savvy businessmen, and they're really good at what they do, which is try to make as much money as possible throughout the Bitcoin mining industry. Uh, it's just weird seeing all these sanctions being levied and knowing good, who I know to be good Chinese citizens that are.
I mean, you can hate a state, and you could feel threatened by a state. You can hate a state while still admiring their subjects. Like that's not
Yeah.
there's no conflict there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've long said, I like who else? China is obviously the Chinese government, the CCP, is not only the largest threat to human rights in the world, but they're the largest threat to American supremacy. Now, the question is, do you support American supremacy? There's a whole nuanced argument there, but there really is no one else. If you're talking about a competitor to our hegemony, it's China. It's always been China, at least in our lifetime.
It was always China. It was always China. No, that begs the question. And yeah, it's the opaque nature of China from the outside looking in. Like many people are like, oh, they're very strong. Like I had London Paul on. He's like, yeah, people are thinking that China's economy is about to collapse, but it's very robust. They've got trade deals going with Africa, India, Russia, Southeast Asia. Their economy would take a hit if it had to cut America out, but they would survive at the end of the day. And then you have a lot of the people here, like Kyle Bass, others saying it's an economy built on complete house of cards of debt, and the real estate market's collapsing, and they're having bank runs, and it's just so hard to actually know what's going on there. It's very confusing. I'm sure we'll find out at some point.
Yeah, did you see like there was like a video that came out? Like I couldn't translate because I can't speak Mandarin, But they were like telling Chinese citizens to buy a second home, and if they already had a second home, go buy a third home, and if you already had a third home, go buy a fourth home. While the bank runs are happening. So obviously their house is not in order. There's a lot of issues over there. But it's amazing what you can accomplish when you're fine with tens, hundreds of millions of people going through famine and heartache. If that's a trade-off you're willing to make, then you can get away with massive collapse and still be successful on the geopolitical front.
Yeah.
And you know it's great for depressions. Hot wars.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's like the thing that scares me, because I think, I think the U.S. government, run by the intelligence agencies, is fucking. I've been railing on the federal government for years on this podcast. I think they're terrible. I think the intelligence agencies have bad intentions. I don't think they care about Americans at the end of the day. I don't think they're here to serve freedom or our right to peace, happiness, and prosperity. I think they have weird,
I don't know if that's
weird.
right, but
It's not. It's they have weird intentions. Power. They really want power and control, not only over American citizens but the rest of the world. China, same thing. CCP is the same way. European Union, Russia, all the people in charge in all these places are power hungry sociopaths. But like you said, if the Evergrande situation in China, their bank runs and their real estate crisis, energy, food crisis, many people are talking about over there, is real. We have it here in the West too. Like one of the articles I wrote last Friday, Germany. Like, people don't understand what's going on in Germany right now. Like, Germany is in the middle of an energy crisis. They have intra-year, within the year 2022, they have hyperinflation of energy prices. It's up like 500% within the year. Their cost per megawatt hour, next day power prices are at all-time highs and are going up rapidly because of the fact that they can't get access to Russian natural gas, and they've decommissioned a number of nuclear power plants and replaced them with wind farms that aren't producing enough electricity to supplant that nuclear generation. And many people are like, oh, Germany, Germans are just going to have a cold winter. They're going to stock up on wood and just suffer through the winter. It's all worth it to stick it to Putin. But I don't think people really understand like the second, third order knock-on effects, and it's already beginning to happen, not only in Germany but throughout Europe. It was announced yesterday that a large steel manufacturing plant in Slovakia is going to shut down next month because the electricity prices are too high. And so what we're seeing all across Europe, I saw a tweet of an Italian small business, their year-on-year electricity price for this one business went from like 90,000 euro, I think they're pretty big, to something like 800,000 euro. It's like up almost 10x year on year. Energy, electricity is overall input into everything that is produced throughout our economies. And so when that raw input price goes up, it literally is going to make just doing things uneconomical. And so in Germany, you're going to have all the car manufacturers shut down, all the steel manufacturers shut down. Slovakia, steel manufacturers shutting down. Small businesses in Italy are going to shut down. You're going to have a grinding halt of a large swath of the European economy. People are going to lose their jobs. They're going to go into a winter without jobs, without electricity, without heat. And you've got a food crisis on top of that. Like, this is not a good situation at all. This is how populist movements happen. And like, the reason I went down this rant is because hot wars are things that usually come out of this. You have people at home pissed off and angry, and so what do? You incite a war with another. You saber rattle with China, and then you throw all the hungry peasants who can't turn their lights on into a war and distract them from the problems that you made at home.
Yeah, and you promise to pay them when they're not getting paid anything.
Yeah.
It's a good distraction. Tactic as old as time.
It's happening, but that's the crazy. Like, when you think about the gravity of it happening all across the world. Maybe, who knows, maybe like Africa is somewhat immune to this, but obviously they're
What,
an
because
emerging
they've been fucked for
market. Yeah,
centuries, so they're like already they're starting in a bear market. So
yeah. But when you think like it's happening here in the United States, we're in a lull. Oil prices have come down over the
I
last few
think no
months.
one's immune to the effects here. Like everyone's going to get hit pretty hard.
Yeah,
And this is why it's important for individuals and local communities to make themselves as robust to these kind of chaotic situations as possible, because ultimately that makes us all more robust. Um, but it starts with the level of greed and selfishness of making sure your house is in order, taking it from there.
yes, exactly. I mean, some people call it greed, but self-interest is probably a
I like
more
the
apt
word greed.
description. You like greed?
It should be
Greed is
known.
good. We need
Yeah, greed is
wait,
good.
we need
Cash is king and greed is good.
a Wall Street meme of just replace Michael Douglas's face with Matt's face with the mic. Greed is good.
Yeah, if you do that, I'll donate 50,000 sats to hodlonaut.
Okay. Ooh, we're doing memes for donations. I like that.
We have like a bunch of there's a bunch of gimmicks in store for you guys, so you all feel uh, to make it a joyous occasion for the telethon. We have a lot of. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a dunk tank approved, but there's a lot of other good shit.
How would you not get a dunk tank approved?
There's
You
a
get
lot of
approved.
like liability and insurance bullshit with dunk tanks. There's a lot of water involved. There's like potential head injuries and stuff. I will never coordinate a dunk tank going forward.
Interesting. All right. Dunk tanks.
I'm a huge supporter of dunk tanks, but I'm a supporter of walking up to the dunk tank and participating in it, not dealing with the bureaucracy of getting the dunk tank there.
Bureaucracy. Yeah. I mean, here's a perfect example of just how crazy the world has gotten. You can't even get a dunk tank without filling out a bunch of paperwork and paying
You
for
need
it.
like a team of 7 to coordinate a dunk tank.
I mean, I'm not even looking at the list now, but I think this just flows in this topic, which is the Inflation Reduction Act, which was officially signed into law by Biden. It's essentially a spending bill, but I mean, it's just talking about the energy crisis in Europe, and that is coming here. I mean, a lot of what this Inflation Reduction Bill, I think it's the most Orwellian named bill since the Patriot Act. Um,
There's a lot of them though.
There is a lot of them, but this may take the cake because Inflation Reduction Act exudes this thing like, oh, we're only focused on inflation and curbing that, but it's just a massive spending bill. It's like literally the opposite with some.
The trick is they're all just massive spending bills with different names.
Yes, with Patriot Act spending bill and encroachment on civil liberties. And you can argue this is an encroachment on civil liberties too, particularly if you believe in the right
Very
to
easy argument.
Basically go and extract energy the way you see fit. So a massive part of the spending bill is very focused on healthcare and energy specifically. And Carr has up on screen a Zero Hedge article that is writing about another article where Bill Gates basically says, yeah, I've been talking with Manchin for 3 years to get this bill across the finish line. I really want all this green energy infrastructure to get subsidized. And just piggybacking on the conversation about the energy crisis in Europe, this is exactly what will be brought here to the United States. Some would argue it already is here to a certain degree, but this will just exacerbate the energy crisis here in the United States because this bill actively disincentivizes the extraction of reliable hydrocarbons, with their very strict methane restrictions and their methane curbing goals in this bill. And then on top of that, they're subsidizing a bunch of wind and solar production on top of electric vehicle purchases. And I mean, just the beauty of the market reacting to these idiotic bills is there's a $7,500 electric vehicle credit included in the Inflation Reduction Act, and all of the electric vehicle manufacturers have simply raised their prices by $7,500. So you're really not getting a discount at all. This same thing happens with student loans. You can get a loan out from the government to go get pay for college, and the colleges simply just raise their prices because they know that the government's going to give them that money. Same thing's happening here with the electric vehicles. But again, this is going to do nothing to reduce inflation. It's probably going to exacerbate inflation significantly. And haven't even mentioned the IRS army either.
Yeah, $80 billion spent training like the worst applicants ever to be armed IRS agents and harass Americans while pretending it's for billionaires, but really it's going to be for all the middle class people and lower class people. And they're just going to fucking harass us. They're going to harass us. And what people don't realize is, like, first of all, pay your taxes, freaks. But second of all, you could do everything right. You could actually overpay your taxes. You could fuck up the math and you could overpay your taxes. If they audit you, it's still fucking hell. It is absolute fucking hell. It's expensive. It's mentally exhausting, and it's horrible for, obviously, for your privacy. I mean, you have a couple government agents, and they're literally tasked with pulling your pants down and making you feel as little of a human being as possible. That is their role.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to Representative Thomas Massey for getting those pictures of the IRS training or recruiting out there, because incredible meme format's number one, but number two, I think it's very powerful in terms of imagery to really drive home the message of they're not sending their best. They're literally going out and trying to. I hate to make fun of the people who were just,
especially since a lot of them are freaks. Since we asked the freaks to,
yes, we
to
know
get
a lot
IRS
of freaks.
jobs and stack sats with it.
Yeah, but it's like old women, fat dudes.
Hey, freaks come in all shapes and sizes.
They do. But this is.
Well, you cropped out the guy in the wheelchair.
I didn't mean to
noticed
crop
that.
out. I didn't crop out anything.
One of the freaks called you out, and it's like, "Is Marty? Why'd you crop him out?" And posted the full photo.
Well, the photo of the dude in the wheelchair, like pointing a gun at the dude's back, and everybody's smiling behind him. It's like, this is insane. They're literally getting joy out of taking.
So this is a theme you see in a lot of failed states, which is this idea is you push the majority of people into poverty, right? You push as many people into poverty, and you create like this. I mean, you don't create it, like, for whatever your policies push the people into poverty. Chaos is ensuing as a result of poor policy decisions and bad foundation. And then as a result, you have a lot of desperate people, and then you can pay them fucking pennies to turn on their fellow American or their fellow subject wherever they live. I'm not even going to call us citizens, because at this point we're just subjects. Like that's what it comes down to. You make people desperate, and then you pay them you pay them money that you've stolen from your subjects, and to turn on the rest of them.
That's very insidious. It's very. I mean, yeah, they're like, we're paying like 40% of our income in taxes to then give to the government to go hire more agents to come use the threat of force via a gun to take more of our money. It's completely illogical. And again, I mean, I tweeted it out earlier this week. I'm pretty sure the founding fathers like overthrew the largest empire in the world because they got pissed off about like a 2% tax. And here we are sitting in 2022, and we're just standing by as the federal government issues $80 billion to hire 87,000 more tax collectors. I think it brings the total to around like 170,000 tax collectors. They want to audit 1.2 million more Americans over the next few years. And the overall tax rate for many people is around 40%, which is like, we're just sitting here just taking it in the ass, like, oh yeah, this is normal. It's not normal.
And once again, you take it in the ass, and then they still come by to give it to you again, right?
Yeah, it's the word I'm looking for. It's like Yeah, a shame ritual, or it's not a shame ritual. There's a word for it.
I'm just glad we started this episode with optimistic shitting on ETH. I was very happy, very happy moment. At least we have that going for us.
Yeah, we do not live in a freak. It's actually scary. It's
We've just
scary.
evolved. I
It's
would
scary.
love, I would love if a freak. I'll donate
A
another
hazing
fifty
ritual.
thousand. I'll
Thank you,
donate
Shop
another
Boys.
50,000 sats to hodlonaut if a freak does a compilation of Marty asking, do we even live in a free country anymore?" And it ends with his current statement, which we don't live in a free country.
Yes, there's a
Just
hundred.
I want the evolution of it, all in one clip out.
Yeah, Shop Boys and MG Smith 4 got it. Yeah, it's a hazing ritual, a humiliation ritual. It's like we've taken so much from you. Here, we're gonna hire all these these fucking mouth breathers. Don't even know how to hold a gun. Probably don't even know how to read too good, but they're gonna be able to show up and bully you around until you get your money. I mean,
I will reiterate that if you're an unemployed Bitcoiner, and you don't want to learn how to code, you can get some basic gun training. You can be on the inside, and you can get probably a decent paycheck and stack sats with it if you apply for one of these jobs.
yeah,
I think there's a strong argument for that. I think if I was, I probably wouldn't. If I'm going to be honest, I'd just rather die poor.
yeah, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, but
Like,
I don't know.
will they? You asked the question: will they be able to hire 87,000 people? But I don't know.
Yes, there's a lot of desperate people out there, Marty, and if I mean, you only start to realize how fucking corrupt and mentally taxing and ridiculous our tax policy is after you've started being relatively successful, right? Because if you're a completely desperate person, you're having trouble paying the rent, you're going paycheck to paycheck, like that mental tax burden is not nearly as high. So it goes to reason that poorer, lower class people are more desperate people have less negative feelings about the IRS. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, people just get brainwashed. Like I know a lot of people that work in government adjacent jobs, like contractors and stuff like that. That they just get completely warped in the. I mean, all their coworkers do it. You know, like they go to parties, like they go to weddings. They're all working in like government adjacent jobs. Like they just get in their own little bubble.
Yeah, it's a herd mentality.
Yeah.
No, I had to call up my accountant this morning. I was puked. I was like, holy shit. I hate taxes. But I pay them. We got on
It's
this.
so exhausting.
Yeah. It is stressful. Even doing it, not even getting audited, just like doing your taxes.
Every year you have to do it too. It's crazy.
Yeah. And we should abolish taxes. Can we get.
Yeah, I mean, I just gotta pick your battles, Marty. Let's just focus on ETH blowing up first, and then we can address everything else after that.
Yes. We got on this because the U.S. banned 3 nanometer chips from a country that's most likely China. But we have more stuff on this. Another data breach disclosure, this time from Casa. Casa disclosed.
This is so bad.
They had a third party vendor lose information. An unauthorized actor recently obtained customer information related to Casa's store from a third party e-com vendor. Where's the name of the vendor? It's like V something, right?
I thought it was kind of fucked up that, I mean, first of all, that they were trusting a third party vendor. We've talked about this a million times. To be clear, this is the Casa store, So it's not for all Casa customers. It's for Casa customers who like bought additional hardware wallets, Faraday bags, like different things from the Casa store. But presumably that's a lot of Casa customers, because one of the things Casa offers is like, okay, we'll give you decent security guarantees and hold your hand through the whole thing. And so like presumably a lot of people go to the store. What was fucked up to me was in this public release on this tweet, they didn't mention what data got leaked. They just mentioned that data got leaked and they emailed the people affected. But the people that got affected leaked the email, and the email says data includes names, emails, phone numbers, shipping and billing addresses, and the products ordered. So really, like, as bad as it can get in terms of a data leak. And you just hate to see, like, if it does happen, if you fuck up, learn from it, but be as transparent as possible about what has happened here.
Yeah, I mean, I got that email. I think it's because I bought their node. Luckily, I don't live where I was when I bought the node. But yeah, first and last name, email address, phone number, shipping
Oh,
address,
a lot of
billing
people bought
address,
the node.
products ordered. So I bought the node, and it's funny because I have been getting an insane amount of text messages from people trying to get me to click links in the last couple of weeks. So I imagine it's from that.
And Marty's a sucker for that. Like, if you just send him a link, he'll just click it instantly. Just like all you freaks, just go out, send him links. He'll just click the links.
Now, it is their the phishing links. I haven't clicked them, but they're getting more.
Marty's just not
I know.
acknowledging me.
No, I don't click them. I don't click any links.
Big link clicker. Marty's a massive link clicker. Just send him links, guys.
Big link clinker. I was trying.
They are getting smarter with their phishing attempts. They do look more legit now.
Yeah, they know your bank. They know your bank. They're like, oh, you need to click this link to figure. I'm like, wait a second, this isn't the number this usually come from. And then there was a Bitcoin related text the other day. They thought I was using some exchange I've never used, and they were like, you got to click to sign in. And I imagine they're just trying to get access to your phone in some way or another. So yeah, beware. I was affected by that. Sucks to
I
see.
feel like every week we have another one, man.
I love you, Brian Lockhart, but the node was it was early. It was early in the Lightning Network. I do have it. It will go in my museum. We'll go on the TFT Studios Bitcoin Commons bookshelf, the casa node.
You bought a brick and you got all your personal information leaked. Congrats.
Pretty sure I have like 3 million sats on that node too. I have to recover.
Don't worry. Freak, send him a link to recover.
Yeah, send me the link, please. Please. Next on the list, Vinteum launched to support Bitcoin development in Brazil. So Lucas Ferreira made an announcement of Vinteum, a nonprofit Bitcoin research and development center dedicated to supporting Bitcoin developers in Brazil in the wider Latin America region. So this is cool to see. Developers getting together to teach others in Brazil and Latin America how to contribute to Bitcoin.
Yeah, this is a great initiative. Shout out to everyone involved. Pretty fucking cool. Yeah. Love to see specifically developing world initiatives like this.
Yeah, I mean, so we're talking a lot about the power struggle between U.S., China, West, East. Brazil is one of those like relatively large economy outliers where you want to see a lot of this development because they're like a bit of a wild card. It's like, what's Brazil going to do? So it's good to have a very vibrant Bitcoin community in an area like Brazil where they may be considered like a brick country, but I don't think they always play ball with those countries. And so it's nice to have wild card states.
I mean, it's not like it's a sports team.
What do you mean? Brick isn't a sports team, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but BRIC, like the acronym is basically, it's like the up and coming economies, right? It's like Brazil, Russia, India, China. It's not even spelled BRIC. There's no K. But it's like it's something that is was an external association placed on top of them. It wasn't like, I don't think it was like Brazil, Russia, India, and China like got in a room. They're like, let's work together and build bricks.
Yeah. I mean, well, there is talk of like the BRICS currency and stuff like that. I think they ran with this. They're like, oh, you're going to label us?
Well, that would be like the Chinese currency, and then just get Brazil, Russia, and India on board, and boom.
Yeah. Anyway, long story short, shout out to the Vinteum team. It's very good to see people in Brazil having access to better Bitcoin knowledge. So we wish you well there. This was interesting news this week out of the mining industry. Bitmain and Antpool are launching a new miner loan program with loans as low as 6%, I believe, which completely undercut 6.6%. The low end of the loans 6.6%, and the high end at 8.8%. For, I believe, probably for their larger buyers. But when you look
and presumably they have a key aspect here where it's like Antpool is spying on you and providing that data to justify the loan. So you're like giving up
your hashing data.
privacy, yeah, for the lower loan rate.
Yeah, I mean, Antpool's been known to spy on its miners and put back doors in their firmware. So be aware of that. But if you're looking at this from a pure cost of capital perspective, you're trading off privacy for a cost of capital that is significantly lower than the market rates that the lenders are offering here in the US. I mean, Galaxy, NYDIG, specifically, Foundry, I don't think is doing loans anymore, but
they were for a while though.
They were for a while, but I don't think.
And I wonder if that also means like there's Antpool lock-in. Like to keep servicing the loan, you need to stay on Antpool so that they can. I don't know if the freaks saw who were watching the video, like their PR way of saying they spy on you to give you the lower rate is Antpool and Bitmain have partnered to provide proprietary data to assess risk of loans given. I love PR speak; it's really fun. But there's probably like an Antpool lock-in too. It's a competitive advantage if you're a pool that's suffering hash loss and you want to get higher increased hash and you want to keep the hash you have. Give them a loan. Tell them they have to stay.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, pools notoriously their margins are getting driven to zero, so they have to have these value-added services like a loan desk. So it makes sense. And again, completely undercutting the Galaxy and NYDIGs of the world right now. I believe publicly the lowest rate I've seen is like 11% that Iris got from NYDIG earlier this year on some ASIC collateralized loans, but typically those rates range from like 11 to 16%. So being able to offer 6.6 to 8.8% is a significant competitive advantage for Bitmain and Antpool. But again, consider the lender. Do you really want to go out, and are you desperate enough to go get a loan from Bitmain to cut your rate essentially in half? Who knows? I'm sure there are many out there who are willing to take that risk. So be aware of that. The mining space, Bitcoin ekasi in South Africa. I've not jumped into this. This was
modeled after Bitcoin Beach, but it's in South Africa. This is a post about the last year, basically, of ekasi's growth. Freaks who are often on Twitter might recognize there's a lot of community outreach that's happening there, particularly in the younger generation. So you'll see like videos of young kids buying stuff with Bitcoin and using Lightning over there, which is really cool to see.
Yeah. Shout out to Bitcoin ekasi. They have a nice map there too. Looks like they have like a micro Bitcoin economy in Mosul Bay, which is just cool to see. It's happening. Grassroots. I'd love to see grassroots. Speaking of grassroots, that reminds me of our only shout out of the week, which I'll read real quickly. I'm looking to start a Bitcoin meetup in Greenwich, Connecticut, Matt's favorite down-to-earth place. The plan is to start with 2 to 5 people. Then we can decide how to grow it from there. If any freaks are interested, they can contact info at 203, the numbers 203 btc.com. In the future, we may have a matrix chat or similar, but for now, direct emailing is the best way to ensure privacy between those who reach out to register interest or ask questions. Thanks for everything you guys do in the space, and keep up the amazing work across the board. 203btc.com.
That's awesome. Love to see new meetups pop up, and I love that Rabbit Hole Recap shoutouts have been a key way for them to get exposure as they're growing. I would say, first of all, to this meetup organizer, proud of you for getting the ball rolling. Appreciate the support for Rabbit Hole Recap with the shout out. And then the third thing is, you mentioned a matrix chat, you mentioned email. We do have a matrix chat for Nash Bitcoiners, but what I've noticed is, consider creating a Telegram chat as well. Like, it's optional. People don't have to use it if they don't want to use it. Obviously, there are privacy concerns with using Telegram. It is linked to a phone number, so consider what phone number you use. But I've noticed that the Telegram chats for the different meetup groups are much more active and much more used. But if you do create a matrix chat, definitely message that to us, and I will ping all my matrix homies and let them know that chat exists.
Good luck to starting the Greenwich, Connecticut Bitcoin meetup. 203btc.com. It's a nice landing page if you want to connect via email. You forgot it in the shout out. Back to the list. We have telcos. They're just going to get hundreds of millions of dollars in fines waived.
So this is a classic. Marty was talking about how they really named bills great. So the American Data Privacy and Protection Act, great name, includes a clause that excuses the major telcos of $200 million in fines that were levied against them for location tracking that they weren't disclosing to their customers. So you have an act called the Data Privacy and Protection Act that is absolving them of tracking your location.
Again, doublespeak. Definition of doublespeak. Just portray it to be one thing. It's literally the exact. It is a humiliation. It's the United States federal government is a humiliation arm of humanity. It's like the demons have taken over the federal government, and they're literally just fucking with people. Like, hey, here's the Inflation Reduction Act that's going to increase inflation. Here's the Privacy and Protection Act. Oh, we're just going to absolve people of completely raping your privacy. Here's the Patriot Act.
Must be really fun naming this shit, though. I mean, like, do you think they're like drinking martinis or like their pinky finger out? They're like, oh, we'll call it the American Data Privacy and Protection Act.
Here's the CARES Act. We're going to reduce your healthcare. Oh, actually, your healthcare costs are going to go up significantly. We care about you. We care. It's the CARES Act. We care about you. Duh. It's in the name of the bill.
What, are you not a patriot?
It's, I mean, I'm gonna get old and crazier.
You're already getting there, Marty.
It's so frustrating. It's like, am I taking crazy pills? Like, how do we put up with this anymore? I'm not. Stack sats. Stay humble. Stack sats. Starve the beast. Peaceful civil disobedience is the way forward. We got to make fun of these people. That was a great thing. That's why I love the pictures that Rep Massey shared and like really blew up that IRS thing, because it's incredible meme format where you just really highlight how fucking stupid the opposition is, and the opposition.
It wasn't even a fucking meme format. It was just a video.
I know, but no, you released 3 pictures, but it's like, and they all have like terrible trigger stances. The dude in the wheelchair is just smiling as he's pointing a gun at somebody with his back turned to him. What was the other ones? Yeah, the other ones look like they were line dancing. And then there's one where they're in the classroom and all the IRS agents are like pointing guns at each other. There's just some poor woman. You can buy a person a lunch in the business card, write off his expense, spread them, bitch. Look at this. Look at the smile. Zoom in on the smile.
Oh, like that's the photo where you cropped out the wheelchair guy.
Well, I make sure he got front and center in this one. So.
Was that after you got called out by the freak? You posted another one with him front and center?
No, I literally just copy and pasted the picture. Maybe I didn't click and copy correctly, but Did not put in any time or effort to actually crop any of these pictures.
Allegedly.
How did, we're not going to solve the problem on episode 213, a rabbit hole recap, but how the fuck do we just get people to wake up? Like, these people are, the government's just lying to you, making your life worse off.
Well, they could start by reading Mandibles.
Yeah, read Mandibles. Shout out to the freak who sent us a picture from the shore house he rented, where they have Mandibles on the bookshelf. You're in good hands in that house, it seems. Wheelchair guy will totally shoot first before chasing and tackling. Yeah, it's probably he's not going to be running after anybody, that's for sure. But it does feel like they're just in some huge, massive humiliation game where there is like some demonic forces like we've taken over the world and we're just going to make these people, we're just going to drive them crazy. Make sure your vaccine boosted, freaks. Okay. Moving on, because I know Matt's getting a little anxious with the demon talk.
If someone cuts a clip of Marty saying what he just said out of context, 50,000 sats to hodlonaut.
Okay, that's 150,000 sat bounty in memes right here. This is like, how does this happen? I mean, iOS VPN support leaks data. Not all the data that you think is going through a VPN on your iPhone has been going through.
This is horrible. He disclosed it years ago.
Yeah,
and
allegedly,
Apple
like Apple's known for years. Yeah,
this is fucked up. This is, I mean, a massive. We've talked about this we've talked about the concept many times, which is the worst situation you could be from a privacy perspective is not being aware of privacy leaks and thinking you're protected, which is why the responsible way to start every data privacy discussion, including in Bitcoin land, is to talk about the trade-offs and make people aware of the risks in the first place. And in this case, people thought they were using a VPN to protect their internet activity from their internet service provider, whether that's a mobile phone provider or, like a landline, ISP, cable, whatever, FiOS. They were relying on VPNs to do that, and they were relying on VPNs to protect their IP address and by extension their identity when browsing websites. And meanwhile, iOS has just been leaking a bunch of data while they were running it, thinking that they were protected. It's like a condom with a hole in it. You might as well not, like, that's the worst case scenario. You're better off just going raw.
Which leads you to question if Apple knew about this for years, and the guy who disclosed it, I guess, finally came out, was like, hey, like, I told them this shit's broken. They haven't fixed it. Like, was it not fixed intentionally because they're working in conjunction with somebody like the FBI, CIA, federal government to give up information on people who think they're using their phone with some degree of privacy?
Probably not. My guess is more of just like a priorities thing, and like they consider this an edge case and they just didn't prioritize it. But it is dangerous.
I mean, their last major ad campaign was all about privacy and security.
Yeah, but there's an aspect to this particular bug where it has to do with if you have a session already before you open the VPN, what it should do if privacy was the number one priority is it should end all sessions and then restart the sessions using the VPN. So theoretically, if like the first thing you did before you did anything else on the phone was run your VPN and then you don't turn it off, then you shouldn't have this issue. So I'm not making excuses for them. This is absolutely horrible, but it's like a priority. To me, it's probably a priority thing. Because I mean, on iOS, like there's other ways you can compromise people if that was the grand conspiracy.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, most people are using insecure VPNs to begin with, right? So VPNs by design are a trusted relationship. You're putting 100% trust in if you're using a hosted VPN, you're putting 100% trust in the hosted VPN provider, and a lot of them are run by data surveillance companies and by extension the countries that they work with.
Yeah, the demons behind the scenes who want to control you are telling you they're going to reduce inflation, reduce your healthcare costs. You're patriotic for giving up your civil liberties. Be a good citizen.
One
Obey.
thing I wonder is Apple has their own, like, for their paid tier. As someone who doesn't have an iPhone, they have like a paid tier option for like what amounts to a VPN. They have like I don't know what they call it, like privacy browsing or something. I wonder if that's affected by this too, or if it's just third party VPNs. It whenever I've fucked around with like a VPN on an iOS device, it always felt like an afterthought. It just didn't feel like a full fledged integration. Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, just be aware if you're if you're an iPhone user, just be aware you've just been fucked for the last few years. I don't know what to take away from that besides that.
Yeah. Hopefully you're aware now. Last thing we have on the list. I do have one thing I want to talk about off the list. But the last thing we have on the list is actually very good Bitcoin research. Gleb Nalmenko and Antoine Riard did some channel jamming research that was supported by BitMEX and Queenbit, I believe. And they've released a website, jamming-dev.github.io/book. And they basically have a bunch of chapters describing the channel jamming issue that exists in the Lightning Network. It's an issue that's been known about for some time. What are the costs of channel jamming? What are some of the solutions to channel jamming? What is the design space for creating new solutions, and sort of the incentives of the attack? I read through it this morning. I'm going to write about it in the Bend today. It's just very thorough work that should be surfaced because this threat does exist. Matt's talked about this on Citadel Dispatch quite a bit. So be aware, essentially, an attacker could denial of service attack your channels and make it so you can't successfully route transactions to invoices, which would lower your reliability as a node and as a merchant at the end of the day. And what I found particularly interesting in chapter 3 was like sort of the incentives to levy these attacks. Could be from competitors. Say like you're a VPN who accepts Lightning transactions for your VPN service, and you don't want people using other VPNs. You channel jam their channels and force people to buy your service, which is just like,
or if you don't want people to use other routing nodes. So I had Tony on Dispatch, and he basically we practice what we preach, right? Which is, I think the best way to learn is to get burned. So he like probed the fuck out of my channels, like added a 30 gigs to my database file. And he was like, I could have jammed you up completely at basically no cost to myself. So it is a real risk. I love that we have a full proper write up here. I think if we're gonna talk about, we've talked about in the past that like one of the things that I really dislike the most is hypocrisy in the space and hypocrisy in general. I think we're all hypocrites, but it's up to us to try and reduce our hypocrisy as much as possible and have as much logical consistency as possible and hold ourselves to higher standards than other people. So while it was fun to shit on ETH in the beginning of this episode, and we will continue to shit on them for the foreseeable future, I will reiterate that Lightning does not feel like it can withstand an adversarial environment, a proper adversarial environment. Fortunately, the way Lightning is designed is Lightning could completely fail and the Bitcoin network would be fine. So what I foresee happening is these attacks starting to happen, they become more frequent, and then as a result, Lightning becomes more robust. And if you have Bitcoin that you're holding on chain, like, you're just not affected. So trade-offs, there's trade-offs everywhere, but I will reiterate that right now, if we had any kind of sophisticated actors attacking Lightning users, attacking Lightning node operators, they would have pretty good success. And we just haven't seen those kind of attacks yet, at scale at least.
If Tony Spaghetti can do it from the Bitcoin Park, imagine what they can do in the NSA offices.
Exactly.
No, like Matt said, it's important to be upfront about all this stuff, that these risks exist, that these attack vectors exist. But I think silver lining is we have people like Gleb, Antoine, Tony working on this and being not trying to shove it under the rug and just ignore it, and really highlight like, hey, this attack vector exists out there. It's something that should be buttoned up. And if you're comparing it to Ethereum, I think Bitcoiners are certainly extremely upfront with the shortfalls of whether it be Bitcoin at the protocol layer or Lightning. So yeah, it's good to see this research happen. Be aware of it. I would highly recommend. It's not that long of a read. It's like 4 or 5 chapters, and they're not even really chapters. It's probably like 3 pages of book per web page.
And if you are looking for that episode with Tony, it's Citadel Dispatch, your favorite podcast app, episode 69. 69 is the one I think we
Nice.
primarily talk about. Yeah, nice. And then 70, I had him back on as well. I think we talked in both about it, but 69 was the main one.
Yeah. Channel jamming. Beware. The one interesting thing too, like maybe if it seems like the way Gleb and Antoine put it, if there is a robust fee market that develops, maybe it like prices the attack out, or it becomes too expensive to open those channels. They say like what really makes this attack viable right now is the relatively low fee market that people could just open channels with 1 set per VByte transaction. So I thought that was interesting too. Maybe this problem goes away if more on-chain activity happens.
That's interesting.
Yeah. What else? Oh yeah, that's it for the list. You have anything?
There's other Lightning concerns that happen in a sustained high fee environment, though.
Like what?
So with Lightning, this is way above my pay grade. But with Lightning, a key aspect is, at the core of what Lightning is, it's basically a protocol for batched on-chain Bitcoin transactions. Instead of one on-chain transaction being one transaction, you are able to open a channel, which is essentially a multi-sig with a counterparty, 2 of 2 multi-sig, and you're able to close that channel. And in the while it's open, before it gets closed, you can do thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of transactions, right? So it's a batch Bitcoin transaction protocol. And a key part of that trust model is if your counterparty is being malicious, you're able to close and settle on chain. And if it's not easy to get into the next block or the next 10 blocks or the next 20 blocks, and there's a sustained high fee environment, then all of a sudden there's these other variables at play in terms of being able to settle that transaction. And if you add that to the fact that your counterparty could be a miner themselves and can prioritize their own transaction, then you have these additional concerns that could prop up that we just haven't seen because Lightning hasn't really existed in a sustained high fee environment. There's been some periods, and I would say we didn't really have any kind of adversarial environment while those periods happened. So I think a lot of edge cases we will learn about if we do have a sustained high fee environment and it's adversarial in nature on the Lightning Network at the same time.
Yeah. No, it's funny you bring that up because you said miners, especially if a miner
hashers.
Yeah, but like that's like a big ask that people are asking mining pools, especially at-home miners, is enable Lightning. They do that, and then yeah, this weird incentive variable is thrown into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, one of the key takeaways from this whole ETH debacle or ETH debacle, I don't even know how to pronounce it, um, is complexity kills you, man. You want things to be as simple as possible. The more variables at play, you know, underpinning all of DeFi on a regulated US dollar custodian, like you add all these different complexities to things. And obviously it becomes way more difficult to predict and cover different scenarios that come out because there's just so many variables. So you want these systems, particularly the foundation layers, particularly the thing that things are getting built on. You know, I think most of us believe that Bitcoin is the foundation for a global open financial system. Like you need that to be as simple and as robust as possible with as few edge cases as possible. Complexity fucking destroys you, and there is an element of complexity that gets added with Lightning. But once again, it doesn't. It affects Lightning users. It doesn't affect Bitcoin users, like on-chain Bitcoin users.
Yeah, it could. I mean, if every Lightning channel is forced to like close down, it could affect on-chain users in the sense that the fee market would go up. But yeah, that's the extent of it, probably.
Yeah, but like if that's the implications, like okay, well, if Lightning didn't exist, they were going to be in the fee market anyway, sending on-chain transactions.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I mean, as somebody, we use Lightning. We're using it right now. If you're listening to this on a podcasting 2.0 app, thank you. Yeah, I mean, we're bullish on Lightning, but yeah, it does have these deficiencies. Sorry, the cicadas are out now. But it,
What do you call them?
cicadas?
You don't call them cicadas?
Cicadas. Cicadas. They're cicadas.
Do people call them cicadas? Like you said it really nonchalantly.
I was reading it in my mind.
Okay.
I was reading the word, not thinking of what it actually.
I thought I was the crazy one for a second. I was like, never heard that before.
I think it was because Marty was doing a like it's Spanish chichadas. I think that's what you were doing, Marty.
Chichadas. You see.
He can't help himself. He just thinks in Spanish now.
Yes. No, but I think more serious note. I mean, I guess even as somebody who's building on this and using Lightning every day and really likes it, you do have to come to grips with the fact that it can fail at the end of the day. And like Matt just described, that would suck, but it doesn't mean that Bitcoin has failed. It means that this attempt to build the second layer has failed. And
I'm actually kind of bullish that I don't think it just would outright fail. Like I think there would be funds would be lost, people would get hurt, and it would get better.
Yeah.
Like because it's not the underpinning of the whole fucking system, you're able to take those liberties, right? Yeah. You're not risking like the future of our children and our grandchildren and their grandchildren over this. You have a balance. You have the underpinning, and then you have that strong foundation, and then you're able to experiment on top of it with reduced risk.
Yeah. And then you have people like Leb, again, Antoine and Tony, actually working on fixing this on the go. So hopefully, who knows, maybe there will be solutions, whether it's the design space gets expanded to economically disincentivize the attack, or something happens at the technical level where it becomes untenable. Yeah, there's people thinking about this, and that's a good thing at the end of the day. So be aware. Again, I would highly recommend going to check out the GitHub page with all this research.
Car, can you turn your camera on? I don't like talking to you through God mode. You want to talk about? First of all, I look forward to kicking it with you boys and ladies in Austin next week. But you want to talk about your new deal at Pleb Lab? Like that's fucking cool. That new Pleb Lab headquarters you guys got.
Yeah, we just moved in. It was about 2 weeks ago. And speaking of bureaucracy, there's so much bureaucracy when it comes to like all this like red tape around like insurance and like stuff like that. But yeah, you retweeted it yesterday, Matt. You can see here it's still we're still
looks awesome.
Yeah, we're still kind of building everything out, but it's
do you know how expensive those chairs were?
I don't know, Kyle doing crazy.
I was gonna
purchases
wait
on
till I
stuff.
landed in Austin to ask, but that was gonna be my first
Yeah.
question.
But it's
They look nice.
yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's very complimentary what we have here at the Commons. So it's just like it's yeah, it's right down the street. It's like 5 blocks away from the Commons. So
Oh,
people can
that's
go back.
awesome.
Yeah, people can go
How
back
far
and
is it
forth
from
between the two.
Chiners?
I think it's like 5 blocks in the other direction. I think.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
So it's like 7 blocks or 8 blocks from Shiners or something like that.
Yeah, but
My whole Austin geography is just based on where Shiners is located.
At first, I thought you said. How far is it from China? And I was
Yeah.
like, wow, like all the way around the world. China.
Yeah, Car's like, oh, you're just a humble 5 blocks from China.
Yeah, everything's 5 blocks. Once you get to the Commons and Pleb Lab, everything's 5 blocks.
But anyway, congratulations to you all. That's fucking awesome.
Thanks. Yeah.
And I know it's a long time coming.
Yeah.
Shout out Pleb Labs. Yeah, it's a beautiful space. A lot of natural light in there. A lot of natural light. Pierre probably has some comments on the chairs though. Too many chair purchases. The last thing I wanted to talk about is what I wrote about in the Bent yesterday. Again, going with demonic, overextending, humiliation tactic clown world. I mean, there's a farm in Lancaster, PA, in Amish country, that the USDA, in conjunction with, I believe, the Department of Justice, it got thrown all the way up to the Department of Justice, is attempting to shut down. And they raided the farm last week. They're levying a $300,000 fine, or $300,000 in cumulative fines on the farmer. His name is Amos Miller. This would put his farm out of business, and they're coming after him for simply farming like humans have farmed for the first 7 millennia since we've had an agrarian society, just using the land and natural animal byproducts to grow crops and sustain livestock. And then he had a co-op of private individuals in his community who said, hey, we'd like to buy directly from you with no antibiotics, no GMOs, no USDA certification. And he met that market demand and is being targeted by the state. This goes all the way back to 2016. He sells raw milk. And
we shouldn't call it raw milk, by the way. It should just be milk.
Yeah, it's just unpasteurized milk.
He sells real milk.
Yes.
And then there's pasteurized milk.
Yes. And so in 2016, the CDC tried to say that Amos Miller sold raw milk to a woman in Florida who wound up dying of listeria. So this is where this all harassment stems back to. But if you actually look into the case, the woman who died was like 80 and had stage 4 cancer and likely died from that. And it seems like an attack on this farmer just because he doesn't want to comply with the USDA or play within the big corporation rules. And that was one thing I learned this week that I didn't realize looking into this case, is that the USDA is levying this attack on Amos Miller and his farm in Lancaster, PA. And USDA is not only funded by taxpayer dollars, they also accept donations from corporations, and two of their largest donators are Cargill and Monsanto, who make the products that Amos Miller isn't using. And they have a very high incentive to make sure that he's not successful, and anybody they make this case very public to deter anybody from trying to do the type of farming that Amos Miller is doing. Because if this was to catch on and more people were to do this, it would significantly cut into the profit margins and revenues of Cargill and Monsanto, who try to thrust all their GMO and antibiotic and fertilizer products on the people. So I wanted to highlight this. I think it's a massive encroachment by the state, by the USDA specifically, on a small farmer. Somebody who grew up in Philadelphia, went to Reading Terminal quite frequently, where the Amish had a section of the terminal where they sold their products, some of the highest quality food I've ever had in my life. And to think that we've gotten to a point in society where we can stop people from farming like humans did for thousands of years is completely insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you think there's a lot of bureaucracy and corruption in setting up a dunk tank or moving into your new office, small, sustainable, regenerative farmers and ranchers have to deal with much more corruption than that and much more ridiculousness than that. And this is why the work we're doing with the Beef Initiative is so important. This is why ranchers and farmers don't need to be explained the need for tools that empower themselves as individuals and give them the ability to take back personal responsibility and handle their own shit, is because for generations they've just been fucking destroyed by policies pushed onto them from the top. And this is just another reminder of that. But if you are interested in what's going on with the Beef Initiative, Slim and White Oak Pastures, Will Harris of White Oak Pastures, is doing another Beef Initiative Summit September 16th through 18th in Georgia. I think anyone who goes will absolutely love it. There's only going to be 100 tickets. They will sell out quickly. So if you are interested, go to beefinitiative.com. And Marty, did you see the video we made with me and Eco?
Oh yeah, I don't want to say dramatic. Very high octane. A lot of good background music and cutting.
But yeah, they did a great job with that. But it is one of the, I spend time doing a lot of different things. It is one of the most important things that I spend my time on, and I plan personally to focus on this more. I know Marty does as well. This is important, guys. This is our families are counting on us on this front. And I know it's not necessarily directly related to Bitcoin, but it's definitely related to the personal responsibility and sovereignty movement. We all need food to live, and we all need good food. We don't want broken food.
Yeah, and completely echo everything with the Beef Initiative. It's one of the most important initiatives out there right now, and I'm very happy to have the small part in it that I have had. Slim is leading the charge and bringing humanity towards a future that I want to live in. And I get much joy that I'm able to contribute the small amount that I am. But it's insane. Like what they want this dude to do is to send his beef and his milk, the milk produced by some of the cows that he has on his farm, to a very desanitized or like factory farm where they shove all these animals in, their shit gets all mixed up, and they put a bunch of chemicals in the food. It's just, again, completely, it's like we're living through just one large humiliation, hazing ritual, like in every aspect of our lives, from our food to taxes to like the food pyramid to civil liberties at the airport. Like, it's all humiliation. Like, the demons have taken over and they're here to humiliate you. No, you can't eat food the way it was produced for the first 1,000 years. We're gonna tell you need to put antibiotics in it, all this crap in it that actually makes it less nutrient dense, so that you to save you. The nanny state is here, and they're not taking care of you. They're humiliating you, and they're laughing behind the scenes. It's like that lizard laughing me. And then we told them that they couldn't drink actual milk. They had to pasteurize it. It's insane. And yeah, that's the other thing. Like, this whole listeria thing. They're like clinging to this. Oh, somebody caught listeria. Like, let's walk through the scenario where that did happen. Let's say one person did die of listeria. Terrible. Never want to see it. However, you have a situation in which Amos Miller, the way I understand, he had 4,000 individuals who were taking part in this private co-op where he was selling directly to them. So you have 1 out of 4,000 that we know of have died from a one-off instance of listeria. I mean, the risk there is still significantly low. And then, even more importantly, we should have autonomy over our decisions. If I want to go to a farm and I'm willing to take the risks to basically say, all right, I trust that this guy has raised these animals correctly and is managing the way in which he extracts the milk and provides it to me. Like, that's a risk on me. I don't need the state to step in and basically hold my hand and say, no, you can't drink this, you can't eat that. Like, I'm an individual with civil rights and autonomy. You should be able to drink out of any teat that I want to if I am so willing. I should not have the government coming in and saying I can't do that. I mean, obviously, I can't be walking around just like sucking on boobies all day. That would be sexual harassment, but you get what I'm saying.
Okay, so I want to cut from the beginning of Marty saying he can suck on any tit to he doesn't want sexual harassment charge. If you give me that nice little concise clip, 100,000 sats for hodlonaut.
Yes. Yeah, and according to them, they're saying like fruity pebbles are more healthy for you than bacon. It's just, again, humiliation, hazing routine. I thought I wasn't going to drink tonight, but after this discussion, I need a beer.
Just remember the fun times we had talking about ETH in the beginning of the episode.
It was a lot of fun. And this is fun. I mean, it's not necessarily fun, but hopefully.
It's a reminder of what's important, right?
Yeah. Like, actually, Dan McCardle. Shout out to Dan McCardle. He had a really good quote tweet of my nanny state. I'll pull it up here. Give it to you, Carr. But he said, if the government cares about protecting people and respecting people's liberty, you'd be able to opt out of the quote-unquote protection from various agencies, USDA, FDA, SEC, whatever. But I suspect they fear the entire population opting out would rather have control for your own good. Yeah, like if they really care about protecting individuals and their liberty, you'd be able to opt out of the protection they're trying to thrust on you. Like, I want to opt out. I'm opting out. I want to opt out of the SEC. I want to opt out of the USDA. I want to opt out of the CDC, the FDA. I actually think they're actively trying to harm all of us. Like, please let me get away from these people. I don't want to interact with them at all. I think they're actually trying to actively harm us. Can I opt out of that? Why can I opt out? Am I free? Am I free to opt out? No. So I'm not free? You're not free, freak.
Freaks.
All right, should we get to the boostagrams before I have an aneurysm?
Let's hit the boostagrams.
All right. I've been doing some back of the napkin math here. We are going to integrate the non-fountain boost into this as well. There is one that's not fountain related that
nice.
will be getting included. So this is the top 4 boostagrams from last week. Rep 212. Thank you for the boost, freaks. We really appreciate it. At Pod Resistor, 55,100 sats. God bless you both. Blessings to both of you and your families. Thank you, Pod Resistor. God bless
Appreciate you.
Second highest boost of episode 212 from at BTC Nim. He was the one that said that every boost from here on out will be above 50,000. He boosted us 50,069 sats. Nice. I'm just here to boost 50K because I'm that guy trying to self-fulfill my prediction. Stay humble, stack sats.
Set the floor, freaks. Set the floor.
Support your local podcaster. At Eric99 sent us 50,001 sats. Stay humble, stack sats. Those 3 were from Fountain, and then I have to go back to my wallet, and I received personally how many sats did I receive? Where is it?
The suspense is killing me.
Give me a second. Where is it? Here it is.
It's there, Marty.
From Tomato Deer, I personally received 20,952 sats.
So that's probably over 50.
So yeah, you received the same.
What's our split?
I think we're 40, and then it's like
we're like 40 each, and then the rest of the team gets pieces and open sets. So that's probably like 55 or something like that.
Yeah, something around there.
So we did it. We're all 4 are over 50K.
Yes. So at Tomato Deer, or not just Tomato Deer, from Breeze, and the message was simply V for V, value for value. Thank you, Tomato Deer.
Nice. Appreciate you freaks supporting us through Podcasting 2.0. It's really, really fucking cool seeing the sats stream into my node. And I really do appreciate Tony not jamming my nodes, so I'm able to receive those sets.
Tony, stop jamming nodes, okay?
Keep jamming nodes, Tony. I want chaos. Out of chaos comes the light.
Yes. A lot of chaos this week. Ethereum, not so much in Bitcoin. Maybe a lot of people are jamming nodes, but chaos in the federal government world. Like, I guess that maybe we should have just named this episode "You're living through a large humiliation procedure."
I mean, we could have named it the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yes.
The Inflation Reduction episode.
The Inflation Reduction Act, here to raise your energy prices, make you less energy secure, harass you with IRS agents, and to do absolutely jack shit to reduce actual inflation. It's going to go the opposite way. I know you've got to go.
I appreciate you, Marty. I appreciate you, Car. I appreciate you, freaks. I hope to see a bunch of you in Austin next week for BitBlock Boom. Don't forget to consider donating to hodlonaut at defendingbtc.com and joining us for a 12-hour telethon that's going to have a bunch of craziness involved and fun and loving and support from Bitcoiners that are all going to, it's going to be streamed out of Austin. So we're going to have Bitcoiners from around the world basically there in person joining us for it. I love you all. Thank you for the support. Stay humble, stack sats.
Peace and love, freaks. I got to go mow a lawn. Take care.